Okay, once again, Justin Clapper here with Wrestling Travel. Today I have the Renegade with us, Robby J. Renegade, how are you doing this evening, I guess, is where we're at.
I'm good. Good. Been working lots. Despite everything going on in the world right now. I actually I'm the manager at my father-in-law's store here in Chicago. So it's like I'm an essential worker and like been busy ever since we're like one of the only grocery stores open in the neighborhood. So I'm there quite often and just working.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear that people are still working. I want to find a name for the show, but right now I'm just going with Zabada. And if you're on the inside, you kind of know that that would be the a little bit of a term for, hey, we got nothing to call this. We're just going to say Zabada. So if I can get some people to call it something good. So you helped us out with Mania Crawl. I know that Wrestling Travel is really happy with that. So we appreciated that. Can we start at the beginning? I want to start. I first met you, of all places, last summer in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. You were training with NCW, which I believe is Northern Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
With Jeff Rissett. Jeff was that poor guy. I just called him out of the blue. We were up there with Lee from Wrestling Travel, and I said, let's find a school. And I called him out of the blue, texted him, and he messaged back, and the rest is history. We got to come up and watch you guys train on one of the hottest days. I believe last summer. So, but your training didn't begin there. Can you give the fans a little bit of history about your training, where you come from, and how you got into the sport?
So basically, I'm the singer of Stuck Mojo as well, and just hanging around my guitarist Rich and everybody. As a lot of people know, Rich and Frank and Stuck Mojo, they're also in Fozzy, which is fronted by Chris Jericho. So just hanging around those guys and always talking wrestling. And then like Jericho inviting us to Monday Night Raw at the time in Atlanta. I went down there and saw the show, and it kind of like got me back into wrestling. I was like, Jericho's always been amazing. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. I liked what was going on. I was like out of tune with wrestling for a few years before that. I was really into wrestling more when I was a kid, and then I got older and I started getting into music, and then one thing led to another. I ended up being in Stuck Mojo. Then met those guys. They were always into wrestling. They had their video Rising, which featured a bunch of WCW wrestlers back in the day, like Diamond Dallas Page and Raven. Wrestling was kind of always associated to Stuck Mojo at the time, so I thought, I think it would be cool if, Jericho's already doing it with Fozzy, but he doesn't really include wrestling with Fozzy. He tries to keep the two worlds separate. I thought it'd be cool, what if an actual guy in Stuck Mojo became a wrestler? So that was my inspiration to actually get into it and take it seriously. And then I had ended up moving to Chicago a couple of years after I joined Stuck Mojo, because my wife is from here. So we ended up moving here together, and then we got married here in Chicago. And I was looking, what's the closest wrestling school that's near me and like trained by who I think is one of the best wrestlers around. So I did some research, and like it turned out like Seth Rollins had a school like in Davenport, Iowa, which is about 3 hours away from where I currently live here in Chicago. So I was like, if I'm going to go into wrestling, might as well be trained by the best in the world, or one of the best. And then after going to a school, Black and Brave Academy, being trained by him and my other coaches, Marek Brave and Matt Mayday, it was like, wow, Seth might get a lot of slack sometimes by like some of the marks out there, but it's like, that guy is like the hardest worker I know. He's like, does all his, obligations that he has with the WWE. And then he was there for like every single class that we had. And like, he does this year round, and he's there like 3 days a week for the classes. Always there. I think he only missed one class, and that was because he had to be there a few days earlier for the Royal Rumble, which he ended up winning during the time that I was taking this class. So I started off there at Black and Brave Academy, and then going back to your question, how I ended up at NCW was because when I was younger, I actually went to see NCW as a kid. That's the indie promotion in Montreal. Well, at the time it was in Montreal, Quebec. Now it's in Saint-Thérèse, Quebec, which is a little nearby. Anyhow, I always like wanted to be there. I wanted to wrestle at NCW itself. I was always like, I didn't have dreams of being in WWE. I was always telling myself, I just want to be in NCW. And sure enough, while I was still training at Black and Brave Academy, I had messaged Jeff and I was explaining the situation. I'm like, hey, I'm getting trained by Seth Rollins. I'm almost done. I ended at the end of March. Can I come down in April? It's going to be my first time coming back to Canada because I was waiting to get my green card and I had just got it right before I went to Black and Brave Academy. So it was my first time back in Canada, and like straight as soon as I graduated, I went back to Canada and I started training some more with Jeff and his school, NCW Evolution Academy. And then like I was getting a little like honed by Jeff some more. So like Jeff was more my mentor. If Seth, Marek, and Matt were my coaches, my primary trainers, Jeff was more of a mentor to me, and he like helped mold me into having more of, you know, I guess what is the Quebec or Canadian style of wrestling. So he comes from a different era too. He's been wrestling since like the late 90s. So definitely a different style from today, but he knows things that other people might not know. And I'm glad I went to learn from him because I feel like now I have a different flavor as opposed to some of my other grads who maybe they just learned from Black and Brave and never went elsewhere. But then a lot of others, you know, got training elsewhere as well, and then they take seminars and whatnot. But I don't think anyone has the experience that I had, obviously, with a guy like Jeff, and then wrestling in French. In Quebec, it's a whole other world of wrestling over there. So
to be able to go up and watch you guys practice, and everything was in French.
Yeah.
And I turned to Lee McAteer and said, I do not understand a word of what you guys are saying to each other, but I understand everything that's going on because it reminded me of my camp and just watching everything. And it was an amazing experience that people might not think, hey, going up to watch some other people train, big deal. But for us in the business, it's a big deal to watch. It was an honor for Jeff to invite. I mean, obviously people were missing out on reps because of us, but to have that experience of understanding everything that was going on, even though I do not speak, we're live, speak any bit of French. I did take French in high school, but I mostly just slacked off. So from there, you made your U.S. wrestling debut. We were able to invite you down, and your tag team partner. Your tag team currently is called Collateral Damage, and talk a little bit about your tag team and what's going on right now.
Leading off of what you just said, like, yeah, you guys gave me my U.S. debut in Wisconsin. And at the time for that event, we weren't even a tag team. Like, we were just talking about being a tag team. So like, that was like the seeds of like what would end up becoming Collateral Damage. Like, we didn't have matching gear at the time. We were just in the same class, Black and Brave Academy. We graduated together. We were we were two of the four guys who ended up graduating during our class. I thought Sean Sabotage was one of the best in the class. I thought he was a stellar athlete. He also got trained by Harley Race before coming to Seth's school. So obviously that's a different, you know, mentality and mindset in learning how to wrestle. So he's got his edge there, just like I got my own edge, twist, learning a bit from Jeff. But we both learned from Seth too. So we both, you know, we're on like the same wavelength pretty much. So, and we had a similar build, similar look, similar wrestling style, of course. So I thought, hey, why not team together? You know, we both look young, we both look the same, wrestle the same. So I thought it'd be a pretty cool opportunity to tag with him. And then since that first match we had in Wisconsin, he actually has his own wrestling ring nearby his house. So we train quite a bit together, and like we work on our stuff, hone our craft, and like work on new things, what works, what doesn't. And we're constantly working, and it's great because we get to do it together, like in a private space where nobody else can bother us. So it's really cool. And then since then, we had went back to Quebec to wrestle at NCW and another promotion called FML in Quebec. So we did a little Quebec Canadian tour shortly before this all happened. And then we had one more match back at our coaches, Marek and Matt's promotion, SCW in Iowa. And that was our final match before everything happened here around the world. And we had other bookings up ahead, but everything obviously got canceled. So
we're all kind of in the same boat. And by the way, for those watching, shout out to Tiny Love, who actually I spoke to him about you guys, and it was on his show that he booked you guys. You were over with the ladies there. I must say myself that you guys were definitely the longer hair and over with the ladies, and I'm glad you said Sabotage, because I know his real name, but I didn't want to say it. So you said Sean and Sabotage. When I was there, that's why this interview is live. I'm like, I can't think of his wrestling name, Angel Armani, who I was very impressed with. Took you guys behind the food wagon at the arena and spent. How long did he spend with you guys? Because I was in the main and I didn't get a chance, but you guys were back there forever with Angel.
Oh man, we must have been there for over an hour. He was just giving us a private seminar. It was great. We learned so much in that like 1 hour. Then, you know, I learned more there than I did at like some other places that I went to get a seminar from. So
yeah, I absolutely love the guy. He doesn't. I've worked with him a little bit in the early 2000s. I shouldn't say worked with him. He was on our shows. I would try to soak up knowledge and listen to him. He was at that show, didn't remember me from anybody, but we laughed it up and had a good time. So, have you been in the ring? Have you been able to get into the ring in your young, short career so far with any of what, quote unquote, bigger names?
Not really. Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
I've worked with people that I grew up watching at NCW. So I worked with Jeff Rassett in my first match. That was really cool. Yeah, so I worked with Jeff in my very first match. I thought it was a great match. A lot of people, sometimes they think that their first match sucked. I don't feel the same way for mine. I thought it was pretty good for what it was. And then the second guy I wrestled, who I was really happy to wrestle, it was at NCW with Sabotage in a tag team match. I got to wrestle Jake Matthews, and he's a vet in the local Quebec scene for years now. And he was a wrestler who actually wrestled at a WCW event back in the 90s. I think, I'm not sure if it was a dark match or whatnot, but he's that type of guy, and he has like a lot of knowledge, and like I learned so much from working with him, and it was a great experience. So nobody
Very cool.
Like, to me, it's big for me. So
yeah, one of the things I always tell fans is I hate to hear it about indie promotions. I've never been to a live pro wrestling show, but there's some like amateur pro wrestling going on at the high school, and I'm like, that is the best place to go, because I get a chance to speak with all the wrestlers one-on-one, and I find out who trained you, and then I find out some guy that I've never heard of has all of this experience and has actually Jay Cash, who I interviewed last week, and his video just went up on Wrestling Travel YouTube. Had a hand in training Hornswoggle and Killer Cross. He told me I would have never known. I assume at the Black and Brave Academy, you've had a chance to step in and lock up with Seth Rollins? Or no?
I think he's probably put a hold on me. We're not allowed to really touch him or hit him, or like he doesn't bump for us unless he allows someone to. But normally, no. I think I was maybe in like a chin lock from Seth. And that's it.
That makes sense, but for the fans, you should have said, yeah, absolutely. I had him from pillar to post. So who's a big name that you hope to one day get in the ring with? Doesn't have to be a big name, but who's a dream opponent for Robby J, Renegade?
Oh man, tough one. Unfortunately, I think like a lot of the guys that I looked up to are like either retiring right now or they're no longer wrestling. So I grew up watching the Ruthless Aggression era. So I would have always wanted to have wrestled like a guy like John Cena, or my favorite wrestler is actually Kurt Angle. I would have wanted to wrestle Kurt, but he's retired, and you know, it is what it is. But that would have been my dream match, is to either wrestle Cena or Kurt Angle one day. But
good answer. So what, I know you're working at the supermarket, helping out the family.
Yeah.
What are you doing wrestling wise? Are you just keeping in touch with everybody that you can, or are there other things some of the promotions are doing? What are you doing to kind of get your wrestling fix? Are you just like me and just glued on the network and YouTube finding matches that maybe I've never seen?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm just like studying, doing my homework, watching a lot of wrestling. Since I can't wrestle as much anymore, obviously, I'm just trying to keep in shape. I actually work out at home. I got my bench and free weights and doing pretty good with that, watching my diet. So I'm definitely going to be in the best shape of my life when I get back to wrestling. But, it is what it is.
And the cool thing is you can always practice your promos and talking. So that's a great thing about, well, it's not a great thing about being this. If you had to put, hey, this is the silver lining because I get to do this. I want to jump ship here because this is very, very cool. You mentioned it earlier. You are the lead singer for a band called Stuck Mojo. What I remember the most about Stuck Mojo is they had an ad in Pro Wrestling Illustrated in the 90s, and the cover of their album was the WCW United States Championship belt. Yeah. And that hooked me right there. Like, these guys get it. Wrestling fan, and these guys. And what I remember about that ad, and I wish if you could ask any of the guys if they know of this ad, it featured the words on the ad for that was from Diamond Dallas Page, and it said, "If you don't like Stuck Mojo, you're wrong." And that just sticks with me. So we've got we're based out of the United Kingdom, even though I'm coming to you from Wrestling Travel USA. There is a lot of people into music. I know there's some Stuck Mojo fans all over the world. I got to say this to everybody watching right now. Robby never mentioned to me that he was the lead singer of Stuck Mojo. Or if I was the lead singer of Stuck Mojo, I would have been handing out cards and stuff. I had to find out on your Twitter. We'd already been friends for a while, and I'm like, well, this guy really likes Stuck Mojo, and I recalled that ad. Then I was like, holy shit, this guy's the lead singer now for Stuck. So how long has this been going on?
Stuck Mojo, I joined the band in the summer of 2015, but I wasn't announced as being part of the band until about a year later in 2016 when their last album, Here Come the Infidels, came out, which was I was a part of it.
Were your vocals featured on that last album then that you just mentioned?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I co-wrote a lot of the songs with Rich. Rich had written all the instrumentals for the album, and he gave me concepts or like themes for each song, or he had like the title track for certain songs, and he either had that or the theme, and he told me what he wanted it to be about, and then I wrote my lyrics, what I thought his theme meant to me, and I pretty much wrote most of the lyrics on that album, except for maybe some of the parts that I don't personally do the vocals for, because there's multiple vocalists that are on the record, but I'm the primary vocalist doing most of the rapping and a lot of the screaming parts on the record. Those are pretty much almost all me. There's maybe only 2 songs on the record that I didn't do at all, but everything else I had a part in. So it's very cool. And that album was awesome because like I kind of joined last minute. I ended up replacing their prior singer Bones. They were supposed to do a record with their original vocalist, but one thing led to another. Rich gave me a call, told me to come down to Atlanta, and I ended up writing the album with him, and then we ended up recording in 2015 with UK producer, Grammy Award-winning Andy Sneap, which was awesome. I never in a million years would have thought that my debut record, my first ever record, would have been, produced, mixed, and recorded by Andy Sneap. So that was another, awesome experience I had.
My hat is off to you because, like I said, I would have been going, hey, I do this, hey, I do that. And you're a very, you're a very humble guy for the talents that you possess. Now, your wife is also in a band that I see quite a bit of. Can you talk about what she does and what she's doing?
Sure. So my wife is Vicky Psarakis. She's the lead singer of The Agonist. They just put out their last album called Orphans. It's been doing really well. It's been getting great reviews from a bunch of people. The fans are loving it. The only unfortunate thing was they had a pretty big tour with Flesh God Apocalypse. It was supposed to happen in the United States, but then the whole pandemic happened and everything got canceled. Theirs was one of the first tours put on by Live Nation that got canceled. And then everything else just snowballed and everyone else canceled their tours too. So, yeah, it always sucks when, it happens during an album cycle, especially if the album's really hot, because you lose momentum that way. But, it is what it is and everyone's affected by it.
So here's what we want to do at Wrestling Travel. We want to give you a chance to, at the end here, when I wrap up, I want to push your social media. There's my ums again. They're coming back. For obviously Renegade, Robby J, wrestling. But I want to give a chance. I want to think, if we're all going to be cooped up here, and unless you're going to get fatter like I've been doing, I might want to work out, and I might want to work out to some music. And I got to think that Stuck Mojo and the Agonist have got to be able to provide you some pretty good tunes to work out to. And it brings me back to that Attitude Era. Just listening to kind of that rap and metal and gets me fired up. So I want to be able to push socials, and I want people that, hey, you should be able to go out on. I know I looked up on YouTube and found a couple live clips from. I haven't looked up Vicky, your wife, yet. I probably should, but I obviously looked up some of your stuff. So, Stuck Mojo, good for being quarantined and working out.
Definitely, yeah, of course. It's knuckle dragging music, so.
Can I get Renegade merchandise? This is what we want to do. We want to help out.
I only have wrestling merch for Collateral Damage, this t-shirt. So it's my tag team's shirt. And we actually have our big cartel store. So I ship out everything from Collateral Damage. And I also ship out stuff for my other band, Repentance. So if you want to pick up tees from that, support me. That's the way to go.
Great way to plug Sabotage there. He gets all the plug for merch without having to do a video or anything. The lucky guy. I want to listen to music. I want to know, can you repeat for me again, what was the name of the album for Stuck Mojo, and how do I follow Stuck Mojo, and where can I get my fix? I'm around the world and I want to listen to the Agonist. I want to listen to Stuck Mojo. So I'll make you email me this stuff too, so our guy can put it on the screen, but let's plug the band.
Yeah. You could Rich actually through Twitter at the Duke of Metal. He's the guitarist of Fozzy and Stuck Mojo. You could look up his music and my music with Stuck Mojo on Spotify. Stream it there. Stream Fozzy, of course. You could stream my wife's band, The Agonist, on Spotify as well. And then I got another band called Repentance. And I guess this is kind of an announcement I'll make. We have our new album. It's going to be called God for a Day, and that should be coming out soon. We'll see. We're still talking with the label and trying to figure things out with the whole situation, but the album's ready. We got the artwork. It's ready to go. We just need a time and date set for it, so get ready for that.
I've got a friend that has a band. They're on iTunes, and all the work they put in, and they're getting 10 cents a song. So please download this music legally, and let's give back to the people that work so hard to entertain us. You and I knowing each other, I know we could talk for an hour.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you again for being very selfless and trying to help out the Red Cross. I'm very glad that you're able to help with the family store, but we cannot wait. Oh, here was my question. Is there any chance after all this stuff is over, when we don't have to social distance, what are the odds, Vegas odds, that I can get you and Jericho duetting Judas or something because obviously you share the same band. Are my odds slim to none, or is there even a possibility? maybe he'll see this and go, hey, Justin Clapper, that Wrestling Travel, it's a great idea.
You never know. Anything's possible. I'm always game to do something with, Fozzy and Jericho. I'd love to. They have a song on their last album, Judas, called 3 Days in Jail. There's a rapping section there. Like, I'd love to throw down with them if they ever gave me the chance to. So who knows? Ask Chris.
Again, a pleasure to speak with you. And we wish you nothing but the best in this, what is hopefully a brief time. And we're right back out in Adam again. So I cannot thank you enough for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Thanks, Wrestling Travel. Love you guys. Hope everyone stays strong, and we'll all get through this. Hang in there.